Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's Lunch with Haley. We're going to talk about whether or not social is the new cold call. Traditionally in staffing, cold calling has been a big part of recruiting and sales efforts. We've heard the term dial for dollars a lot, where you sit in your office and your whole sales team goes on a call blitz and calls every prospect in the phone directory. And the results, well, sometimes they were okay, but most of the time they weren't great. You're spinning the dial and spending a lot of times on the phone or spending a lot of time on the pavement, just dropping in to different companies, and the results aren't phenomenal. So today we're going to talk about how to use inbound marketing, social media, and some other tools to make those activities way more effective. We're not suggesting that you replace the cold call, but we're suggesting ways to turn that cold call into a warm call so that the person on the other end of the line is much more receptive and understands that you're going to offer some value instead of just wasting their time. So on today's presentation, we have 4 members of our social media team. My name is Brad Smith. I'm the Director of SEO and Social Media here at Haley Marketing Group. And joining me today are Jenny, Brad, and Maggie. Each of them are senior social media marketing advisors here at Haley Marketing Group. And collectively as a team, while there are only 4 of us on this call, we have a great group of 9 people and growing right now that help staffing and recruiting firms across the country and across the world, in fact, with their social media and inbound marketing efforts. So again, while there's only 4 of us on the call today, this in-house team of social media experts helps over 250 staffing firms on their social media inbound email marketing efforts. So the tips and the strategies and the suggestions that we're sharing today come from real world examples. These just aren't ideas. These are examples that other staffing and recruiting firms are using to drive ROI and have really good results. And we also have data on over 1,000 staffing and recruiting websites. So we know that these things are working, and we have the data to back it up. So on today's call, we're going to talk about the traditional cold call. We're going to talk about how it's been becoming less and less effective each year. We're going to talk about social media effectiveness and why social is such a great strategy for getting past the gatekeeper and in front of your target audience. We're going to highlight some social media excuses that we commonly hear from staffing and recruiting firms. These excuses are I think, just ways to not do these sales efforts, or we'll debunk some of these challenges. And we're going to get into the meat of the presentation, which is 20 ways to use social media to drive sales. Again, these are proven strategies, proven tactics that work for the staffing and recruiting industry. So let's look at the traditional cold call. A few years ago, in 2007, it took an average of just under 4 cold call attempts to reach a prospect. Not horrible, but still a lot of calls. Today, that's doubled. It takes 8 attempts from a salesperson just to get in front of a prospect. That doesn't mean that you've set an appointment or anything. That's just to talk to them the first time. 8 attempts. But the big challenge here is that sales reps wave the white flag too quick. They give up too easy. And the average salesperson is only going to make 2 attempts. Okay, so they need to make 8, they're only making 2. They're not getting through to prospects anymore. Even when they do get through, only 2% of cold calls result in an actual appointment. That's not a great conversion rate. You can think of direct mail historically gets 1 to 2%. Okay, so these are actually sales reps that you're paying to pick up the phone, make calls. Only 2% of these calls are resulting in an appointment. What we're getting at here, and why we're sharing all these statistics, is that the math just doesn't add up. Okay, the average salesperson is making 8 calls per hour. They're prospecting for most of their day, and they're setting just, in many cases, a single appointment. So you've spent the entire day prospecting, and you got 1 appointment out of it. There is a much better way to go about it. HubSpot did an interesting report on inbound marketing. And what they looked at was that inbound marketing is way, way, way more effective than outbound sales efforts. So picking up the phone, doing cold calls, doing drive-bys, doing stop-bys, traditional feet to the pavement activities. So look at these differences. In a small company, costs you $37 per lead compared to $102 for outbound activities. Medium-sized company, outbound activities cost 3 times as much to get a lead. Okay? Inbound is more effective, it's cheaper, and it's a better way to prospect. On top of that, if you look at nurtured leads, so people that you've reached and stayed in contact with through social media or email marketing or sharing content, not a hard sale, not a cold call, those leads make 47% larger purchases. So not only do you reach more people, you can close sales more effectively, get appointments more effectively, but those people spend 47% more. It's a no-brainer. And here, I love this stat from Forbes magazine. They found that 78% of salespeople that use social media outsell their peers. What more do you need? Social works. Let's take a look at a big challenge that many staffing and recruiting firms are facing right now. We hear it all the time. So the 4 people on this end of the line here, we talk with staffing and recruiting companies all the time. And then the number one question we ask is, what's your biggest business challenge? Because we want to know, we want to come up with solutions and strategies to overcome your biggest challenges. And the thing that we hear 9 times out of 10 today is that we don't have enough candidates. We have job orders, but we don't have enough candidates to fill them. If I just had X number of candidates, I could place every single one of them. This interesting study done by JobVite shows that 76% of social job seekers found their current position through Facebook. If I go onto Facebook and I look for staffing and recruiting firms, some do a great job on Facebook, some are active, some have built great networks, but many haven't. Many are lacking on the Facebook side. And there's candidates that are actively going out there. You're missing out on a great recruiting opportunity and a great business opportunity if you don't have a good presence on Facebook and other social networks, because candidates are going there. Here's an interesting example. This is a light industrial staffing agency. They have offices in North Carolina and South Carolina. They do a great business, very reputable company. This is their website traffic over the course of a month. A little over 12,000, 12,500 visits per month. Respectable. Okay, they have, again, offices throughout North Carolina and South Carolina. This is an example of another company, again, a light industrial staffing firm. They have offices in North Carolina and South Carolina too, so a lot of the same target markets, a lot of overlap. The difference here is they have fewer offices. They're not as big of a company. They have fewer people on staff. Look at their website traffic, over 50,000 visits per month. What's the difference here? This company is somebody that believes in inbound marketing. They do a lot with blogging. They're very active in social media. They continually share content. They follow some SEO best practices. They leverage several different channels to get their content in front of more people. And they combine all those activities with their direct sales efforts. And the result is over four times the amount of traffic to their site. This works. Brad, if you don't mind, you have a client that had a really great case study. And if you don't mind, walk us through what we're doing for this client and what the results looked like.
Sure. For this specific client, we're posting to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google Plus on a daily basis. And when I evaluate social media effectiveness, one of my biggest goals is to get people off of social media and to a contact page or a contact form on that client-specific website. What we found with this specific client is that 54% of social visitors have gone through the website funnel, meaning they've landed on a blog or another page on the website, and have ultimately landed on a contact form or a location page, meaning they have a specific office's phone number now that they can call directly. Along with that, we found that people coming from social media are staying on the site a lot longer than just regular visitors to the website. If you look at Twitter here on the slide, for example, Twitter users are spending over 6 minutes on the site for this particular client.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And Brad, you keyed in on one thing. You said your goal isn't to get people to stay on social media. Your goal is to get them off of social media and back to the staffing firm's website. Our goal is to engage them on social, but get them to take that next action. And you get a 54% conversion rate. Compare that to cold call efforts. Okay, the average person is the average conversion rate on cold calls is 2%. The average conversion rate here is 54%. Which approach would you rather take? I'd rather take the one that converts on 54%. All right, thank you so much, Brad. Let's talk a little bit about excuses. So even with all this data to support that social media works, we continually hear excuses. We hear that social media doesn't work. Nobody cares what I have to say. I don't want my face all over social media. I'm too old. I'm not tech savvy enough. I'm going to let somebody else handle that. I don't want to worry about that. Or my clients aren't on social. I don't have time. We hear these excuses over and over and over again. And I would like to question you and say, all right, if you think you don't have time for social media efforts, but you have time to waste calling and getting voicemail and leaving voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, I think you don't have time not to do social media. So again, let's take a look at some specific examples. Here's a client that creates content and shares it on LinkedIn groups. Okay, so they have blog content, they're sharing it in LinkedIn groups. They're getting traffic back to their website, and traffic from their blog, from LinkedIn, going over to the Contact Us page is converting at a 9% rate. Okay, so they're getting 9% conversion just by taking 2 minutes to share one blog article in a LinkedIn group. Great, great results. So social media does work at a really high conversion rate, much higher than other traditional sales activities. Another excuse that we hear all the time, your clients don't use it. This is a study JobVite did, and they looked at HR managers, they looked at hiring managers, department heads, HR professionals, and they asked them, do they use social networks for recruiting? And they do. 94% are using LinkedIn. 66% are using Facebook. 52% are using Twitter. So your clients do use it. Do your clients care? Yeah, they do. 93% of recruiters will review a candidate's social profile before making a hiring decision. So they care. They look at professional experience, they look at tenure, they look at industry-related posts. So they're looking at all of these things. You should be looking at these things, and you should encourage your candidates to look at these things, because if a candidate is posting unsavory content, the likelihood of you placing that person decreases exponentially. So you need to pay attention to social, and so do your candidates. Another excuse we get, you're not too old, you're tech savvy enough. We get this all the time, okay? And this is one that I really hate. And the picture that I'm showing here, the lovely lady in the front there with the striped shirt, this is my mom. She's 70 years old. Before last year, she had never turned on a computer before. We spent an hour setting her up on Facebook. And the reason we set her up on Facebook is because she wanted to see pictures of her grandkids that my wife and I post. All of her friends had mentioned, oh, I see your grandkids all the time. I see pictures. My mom was upset that she didn't see all these pictures unless I had it up on my computer screen at home. So she said, you know what? I'm going to learn. It took her an hour to learn how to use a computer, get on Facebook, and she's on there all the time now. Okay, so if my mom can do it, you can do it too. All right, so now we've talked about the excuses, we've talked about the value it has. Now let's transition to 20 ways to rev up sales and recruiting efforts with social media. And I mentioned earlier, this isn't just theory. These are 20 ideas that our social media team has implemented for staffing and recruiting firms in the past and continues to. These are things that work. We have data to prove that these work. These are effective techniques, effective tactics that you can implement right away. So let's start us off, Brad, and talk to us about the importance of varying the types of content that you post.
Absolutely. When you look at a average, statistics on a Facebook page, the average reach of a typical post gets about 3 to 5% of your total likes. Meaning, if you have 100 people that like your page, roughly 3 to 5 people are going to see your content. We can influence this and increase this number by sharing things like pictures, video. If you look at this graph on the screen right now, you'll see that the status update at the bottom had 7 likes, comments, and shares. At the top, the video post had 58. It's an insane amount of traffic and a large amount of engagement just because we're experimenting with different types of content, more visually appealing content, and really cutting through that Facebook newsfeed, which leads to our next tip. Tip number 2 is to look for spikes in traffic. So when you're posting content to Facebook, you don't just want to throw a dart at a wall and hope for the best, or a dart at a map and hope for the best. We want to make educated decisions, so we're going to post things like pictures, video. Maybe we just share a link. Maybe we just share some text. And then we go back through and we check what works and, more importantly, what didn't. So you'll see this one post had a lot more engagement than the other, the post at the top with the dot. We want to share more content that's similar to that so that we can continue to engage our audience and ultimately drive them back to our website.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Brad. And oftentimes there's this misnomer that social media is completely free. And while it can be, if you spend a little bit of money, you can have some outstanding reach and really hone in on your exact target audience. So Jenny, if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about how to use some paid features in social to drive more engagement and sales.
Thanks, Brad. You're exactly right. Facebook is a great outlet for posting organically, which is a free option. It's a really good tactic to start with. But if you also are willing to invest a little bit more in pay to play, it can be a great strategy as well. Social networks use paid advertising as a part of their algorithm to ensure that users see content that is relevant to them. By investing in online advertising, you'll have the ability to promote your company and your content to the exact target market you are wanting to reach. Instead of promoting, very salesy or strategic staffing content to your candidates and some of your clients, promote this content just to the staffing, buyers, and other HR decision makers. You get a lot of really great targeting options to reach these individuals, including different things such as geographic location, job titles, ages, and even other interests. Another effective target or tactic is to target people who've already expressed interest in your company. This is done by targeting previous visitors to your website. If you remember earlier in the presentation, it takes on average 8 or more impressions or touch points to reach a prospect and have them engage with you. However, if you could automate that by using different tools called remarketing, this is all of a sudden much easier. This type of advertising uses a little piece of code called a cookie to identify previous visitors to your site and then show them specific ads. I have a great example of this exact advertising in action. One company used this and they were able to see increased numbers of prospects returning to their site by over 300%, and the percentage of these prospects that then were requesting information increased over 118%.
Thanks so much, Jenny. I love that example of using social media and remarketing specifically to get in front of that audience and reach that 8 impression threshold much quicker and much sooner. So wonderful examples. Maggie, talk to us a little bit about LinkedIn. It's personally, I think, one of my favorite platforms. Let's talk about how we can use LinkedIn to gather intel and do some other things.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brad. So on LinkedIn, you are able to learn a lot about an individual that you can use in your sales strategy. By viewing their profile, you can learn their education and professional history, what groups they are a part of, the people they are connected with, and even the mutual connections that you share with that individual. By reviewing this information, you are able to learn and understand the best way for you to connect with this person, whether directly or even indirectly from groups that they belong to. And that takes us to our next tip about using LinkedIn groups to connect and post content. LinkedIn groups are a great way to reach a large targeted audience. In these groups on LinkedIn, you have the opportunity not only to connect and share content with people you are a connection with on LinkedIn already, but also to many people that likely fit into your target audience that you have never connected with before. Sharing and interacting with content and people on LinkedIn in the groups allows you to position yourself as a thought leader while also gathering information about your target audience and helping yourself and your company's online reputation.
Thanks so much, Maggie. I love LinkedIn groups, and here's an example that we pulled up on this screen. Cassandra is actually looking to hire somebody, and if you're a member of this group and you see this, you can respond right away and walk through some hiring tips and best practices, and this is a lead right there. And this stuff does work. So sharing in LinkedIn groups we found to be one of the most effective strategies. This is an example of a 3-month stretch in website traffic. Each peak that you see here is tied back to sharing a piece of content in a LinkedIn group. Okay, just by sharing a piece of content, you can double, triple, quadruple your website traffic and get in front of your exact target audience. So this stuff works. Next tip we're going to share is connecting with LinkedIn group members. Okay, so Maggie mentioned that once you're a member of a group, you can share content and get in front of a lot of people that you're already not connected with. So great way to reach new people. The other nice thing is that once you are a member of a group, you can connect with other members of that group freely. You don't need in-mails and you don't need to pay for it. So join a group like SHRM or your local Chamber of Commerce or local business group on LinkedIn. Go to the group, click on members, and you can connect with people right from there. And I've shown an example of a connection message that I use. And let's say I want to connect with Julie Nelson here. I might write something to the effect of, "Hi Julie, hope you're doing well. I noticed that we're members of the same groups and connected with a lot of the same people. I'd like to add you to my network." So I adjust this message very quickly, but I personalize it, and I found about a 70 to 75% success rate on this. So people that I don't know, I connect with through groups on LinkedIn, and 75% in most cases accept my invitation. So it's a great way to build your network. Social media tip number 8. This is one that I use and connect with sales efforts. Okay, so before I might plan out who I'm looking to prospect and who I'm looking to call that week. And maybe the week before, I take that list and I say, okay, number one, I'm going to connect with those people on LinkedIn. But once I'm connected with them, I'm going to endorse them for skills. Okay, so before you make your sales call, a couple days before, endorse them for a skill or two. You know, why do you want to do this? Well, what's going to happen is in their feed, it's going to show up. And like the example here, Jerry West endorsed me for 2 skills, Google Analytics and Facebook. That gets Jerry's name in front of me. It gets his face in front of me. Oftentimes I will click on his name just to see who that is. So it builds name awareness, builds name recognition. Now, when Jerry calls me or I call Jerry and the receptionist says, "Oh, I've got Jerry West on the line for you," I'm more likely to take that call. Because in the back of my mind, I'm saying, Jerry West, that sounds so familiar. Why does that sound so familiar? So it's a great way to get your name in front of a prospect that you've never talked to before you even call. It increases the likelihood that you're going to get past that gatekeeper and you're going to get that person on the phone instead of just being routed to voicemail. All right, social media tip number 9, and I like this one too. So Maggie, walk us through Twitter Advanced Search.
Absolutely. So tip number 9, as Brad said, is about Twitter's advanced search tool, which allows you to find what you're looking for in search. To get to this tool, you can simply Google Twitter advanced search, and you'll be taken to a tool that looks just like what you see here on the screen, or you can visit the URL twitter.com/search-advanced. What the search tool does is allows you to tailor search results to specific date ranges, people, and more. This makes it easy to find specific tweets from people searching for jobs or looking to hire in a specific location. We recommend looking for tweets that have terms such as job, hire, hiring, staffing, and related terms in them. When you're searching, you can also refine your search by location so that you are finding tweets about these key terms you're searching for in your targeted location. Typically, companies use social networks first before they use direct outreach, so this is a great way to find and connect with your target audiences.
Yeah, great tip, Maggie. Really interesting tool and gets you kind of on the ground floor of people that are looking to hire before they maybe post the job elsewhere. So a great tip. Brad, talk to us a little bit about another tool. I know it's great to use Twitter and it's great to use these social outlets, but you need to build an audience there first. So this is a nice tool to help you build that audience specifically on Twitter.
Right. Just like you were saying, Brad, it's great to send out some tweets and engage with people, but if you don't have an audience that's listening to what you're saying, then you're really at a disadvantage. So one tool that we use is called Tweepy. And with Tweepy, you can view the followers of leading influencers in your market or your industry, go out and see who's following them, and then start to follow those accounts as well and start to engage with those accounts. And what you'll see in the grid at the bottom of the slide here is that in a 1 month period, this sample account gained 400 Twitter followers just in doing this practice, going to Tweepy, loading in a key influencer in an industry, and then started following those accounts, started engaging with those accounts, and they started to follow them back. And we've seen a 400 follower growth in 1 month just because of this strategy. It's going to blend really well. Oh, I'm sorry, Brad, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a great strategy, and think about what accounts your clients or your prospects might follow. Chamber of Commerce, business associations, maybe other staffing firms. So look at your competitors, look at business associations and chambers, begin following those accounts and follow their followers.
Exactly. And that's going to lead to our 11th tip really well. Connect with and retweet key influencers. You'll see sort of a fun example on the screen right now. It's a tweet that I sent out back in September the 17th to a local talk radio host about some bills information that I came across. The takeaway here, though, is that he retweeted my tweet. He has 44,000 followers, and I have about 600. So on average, my tweets are seen by about 925 accounts a day by the time they're shared or retweeted or engaged with. On this particular day, though, my tweets were seen by 1,000% more. I had 9,000 impressions that day just because one key influencer shared my content. So the takeaway is to connect with your key influencers and then go out and talk with them. Don't just ask them to share your content or retweet you, but go out and just have a general conversation with those accounts.
And Brad, if you picked up the phone and you called the radio station WGR and said, "Hey, I need to talk with Jeremy, I just want to chat," do you think that you'd get through?
Absolutely not. There's no way of that. But the great part about Twitter is that it's really easy to get past that gatekeeper. You just send out a tweet and you send some general conversation, and a lot of times those key influencers are on their phone when they're just hanging out for a minute, or they're waiting for dinner. And I'd happen to catch him at a good time, and that's the same thing that you can do with other people in the staffing industry.
Yeah, great way to expand reach. Thank you. Social media tip number 12, one near and dear to my heart, is looking at reviews and helping become an employer of choice and a staffing firm of choice. So great statistic from Dale Carnegie, 91% of customers say they'd give referrals. Only 11% of salespeople ask for referrals. So it's a great opportunity to get other people, other companies to become advocates or even salespeople for you. So put a plan in place to collect testimonials, to collect feedback. Once you get these testimonials and feedback, don't just keep it to yourself. Create great social graphics and share those social graphics. Employees want to work with a company that is placing a lot of people, and employers want to work with a staffing company that has a track record of success. So it's not bragging, it's just sharing success and showing people that you do a great job at matching good talent with great companies. So great opportunity here. Social media tip number 13, and we've kind of skirted around it a little bit, but publish content on your website. Brad mentioned earlier that one of our goals is not just to get people to hang out on social media, but to get them back to your website. And all too often, a mistake I see is that staffing companies and companies in general are sharing all this great content, but it's taking people to other websites. There's no business value there. So it really starts with creating a great website and a great source of content. So when we look at social media strategy, we look at your website as the hub, and from there then we share content to social outlets. And here's an example of how it works. This is traffic to a blog in a single month. So this particular staffing company got over 3,000 visits to their blog. And to Brad's point earlier, we don't want people just coming to our blog. We want them coming to our blog and then taking the next step. Okay, so that next step we want to measure, and we want to think about what next step we want them to take. So job seekers, we want them to go from the blog to a job seekers page or a search jobs page. So we have over an 8% conversion rate getting them to jump from the blog Well, first from social to the blog to the job seekers page. Over on the far right, we have a 26% conversion rate in getting people from the blog to actually go to the search jobs page where they can apply for a position. And then on the lead generation side, we have a over 10%, 10.21% conversion rate from getting people to go from the blog to the contact us page. So you add these up, there are a ton of people coming to this website and converting. Okay, they're starting at social, they're starting at search engines, they're getting to the blog where they find great content, and then they're taking that next step to convert. All right, tip number 14, it's kind of a funny one. It's cats. Maggie, tell us about cats.
Sure. So this is a fun one. In this example, one of our clients ran a cat contest on their company Facebook page in honor of World Cat Day. On this post, you can see they received 17 shares, 54 likes, and 128 comments. On average, though, they usually reach around 100 people, but with this one post reached over 7,500 people. The takeaway here is that by taking a fun topic their audience related to, this client was able to increase their engagement and reach a larger audience than usual. In doing this, they also helped to humanize their brand by talking about things their audience is interested in and having a little bit of fun along the way.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway there is that fun. So look at what your audience is passionate about. Many are passionate about their pets, babies, sports. So think about what your audience is passionate about and post that type of content. And don't be afraid to try different things. All right, so we're going to move over to tip number 15, and I've mentioned it, Brad's mentioned it. We want to get people back to our website, but if your website isn't designed properly, it's probably not going to add too much value. So Jenny, walk through some of the tips of an effective website or an effective landing page.
Sure, thank you, Brad. Effective landing pages aren't just any page on your website. A landing page is usually referred to a specific destination on your site that oftentimes you can't even reach unless you're coming through the network or coming through the ad that you intended. So for example, maybe you're driving a particular prospect from your LinkedIn message to one particular landing page with information tailored to their needs. A landing page can be extremely impactful in increasing your overall conversions. We have seen that when a company goes from just driving prospects to any page on their website to actually implementing a well-designed landing page, they've increased their conversions over 33%. So a couple of things that you want to keep in mind when you're thinking about your landing pages are a few things. First, really think about what you can do to push your prospects through the sales funnel, meaning what action do you want them to take and when do you want them to take it. Make it very, very clear to them that you want them to fill out the form, or maybe it is request an employee, or maybe you want them to download an ebook. But really put thought into what you want them to do and then make it very simple and clear for them to do or complete. You also want to make sure that on your landing pages, make the copy relevant and impactful and really tailor it to their needs. Don't think like yourself, think like your prospects as you're writing this information. You also want to make sure that it looks good. People don't want to stay on a web page that just looks outdated or old, or even worse, doesn't work if they're on their mobile phone. So that's one of the biggest tips that we always recommend is think about your mobile devices as well. And finally, don't be afraid to think outside the box with your design. Use different boxes or other types of headings to make the information you present very quick and easy to digest. And don't be afraid to integrate testimonials that build trust and really make someone want to get in touch with you.
Great tips, Jenny, and I know you do a ton of testing on this, and something as little as changing the text or the wording on the submit button can have a big difference in conversion rates. And Jenny on our team is the one that's in charge of looking at analytics and making sure that we're converting as many people as we possibly can. So one of the takeaways there is to make sure that you're looking at the data or working with somebody that has looked at the data, understands it, and understands how to convert more people that land on this page. So thanks. All right, tip number 16. Maggie, we're going to go back to you. It's not just all about cats, it's about humans too. So walk us through the tip here.
Thanks, Brad. So as Brad mentioned, we talked briefly before about the value of humanizing your brand with tip number 14 about the cat contest on Facebook. Another way to accomplish this is by featuring the people behind your company, not solely the company logo or name, to help people connect with you and your company on a more personal level. As you can see on the screen here, the New York Times states that humans learn to process and even prioritize faces before any other image, so connecting with a face over social media can be incredibly powerful. This can be accomplished on many social platforms, but LinkedIn specifically is a great way to form a relationship via a photograph on social media. This way, when a contact sees your picture, when you share information on LinkedIn groups, or you're sending an email that is associated with your name, the person may be more likely to recognize you and really help form that initial connection.
Great tip. Thanks, Maggie. And Brad, kind of nice segue here. Talk about some successes and how you can highlight those.
Absolutely. Some great content to share on Facebook or LinkedIn are, employees of the month. Maybe you're having a 20th anniversary or a 10-year anniversary. Showcase that. Whether somebody has a new baby within your office or a birthday, you can showcase that on your pages as well. Regardless of what it is, any sort of exciting achievement, make sure that you showcase that on your social media pages. Which is going to blend really well into my next point, tip 18. Test different types of content. This kind of goes back to tip number 2, which was, evaluate what works best. Maybe it's a top job that you're trying to fill. Maybe it's a really nice blog post that you put together. Maybe it's a success story within your office. Test different types of content. Go back to your analytics dashboard. See what works, see what didn't, and then start to share more of that content. And then as a bonus tip, over a 40-post schedule, consider sharing about 7 different jobs.
Yeah, great tip. For a while there, we shied away from jobs, especially on Facebook, because a lot of staffing companies were just setting up a feed from their job board or their ATS, and we're just feeding job posting there after posting after posting. But we've done a lot of research, and Brad specifically does a ton of research each week in looking at what type of content gets the most traffic, and I think that's a great ratio. So over 40 posts, try to share some jobs in there, especially in a market where it's tough to recruit. All right, tip number 19 is get buy-in from your entire staff. You would do this for any type of sales challenge or anything else, operation challenges or things like that. You'd get buy-in from your staff. You need buy-in on these marketing efforts too. And this is an example of a little contest we held internally here at Haley Marketing Group. So over the summer, we had a challenge. Oftentimes over the summer, there's vacations, people are in and out of the office. We see that our blogging efforts sometimes decrease. So we said we don't want that to happen this summer. In fact, we want them to increase. So we challenged our entire staff to write 90 blogs in 90 days. If we did it, we were going to have a happy hour funded by the company. So of course there was alcohol involved, and there was some great incentive for our team to get active, and it worked. And it worked very well, more so in fact than we even thought or hoped. So top level statistics on our website all improved. Our total number of sessions went up 7.63%. Page views went up almost 9%. The average time somebody spends on a site went up 6.5%. Our traffic from social media grew at a huge rate. So during this 90-day period, social traffic was up 60%. Why is that? It's because we were writing more content, we were sharing more content. So our content was getting in front of more people. Even better though, the traffic not only was the content was getting in front of more people, it was driving more traffic back to our site, and not just overall traffic to our homepage, it was driving traffic to our services page. So our services went up 11%. That led to an increase in inbound estimates of almost 12%. So just by blogging 90 blogs in 90 days, we had an increase in sales requests of 12%. Okay, that's ROI right there. That wouldn't have happened if we upped our cold call efforts. In fact, we don't even do any cold calling. So 12% increase just by writing more content and sharing more content. And it's all because we got buy-in from our staff. And Brad, I think you have a client that's actually doing this right now, don't you? That's getting buy-in from their staff and running some type of contest?
Yep, similar to the happy hour that we had at Haley. they're going to do a breakfast. So we share content to a company's page every day, to their Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Specifically LinkedIn, though, I challenged their president to challenge their team to share that content that I'm posting 40 times throughout the month of September. They've already surpassed their goal, and we're seeing the exact same results that you're displaying here, Brad. We're seeing more traffic back to the blog, which ultimately is bringing more traffic to the contact page, and they're seeing great results from it.
Wonderful, thanks. And let's wrap things up for our tips, Jenny. And this really goes against that common complaint we hear that, oh, geez, we don't have time to do all this stuff. Walk us through how we can make sure that people on this call do have the time.
Yes, time is certainly one of the biggest complaints we hear, and that, in addition to that, is overwhelmed. They just might feel a little bit like, there's no way I can do all these. I can't implement all these tips. Help, what do I do? So our team wanted to pull together a few of our favorite resources and a few of our favorite tools to hopefully help make this easier for you. The first tool we wanted to highlight is a great content publishing tool called Buffer. This is a tool where you essentially connect all of your different social media accounts, and you can share content with one single click. You can schedule content, and you can even just put it into a nice little funnel, and it'll automatically get pushed out based upon a calendar you set. Our second tool that we wanted to highlight is called Hootsuite. And Hootsuite is where, in addition to scheduling posts or posting updates, you also can watch what your audience is saying, not only on Facebook or Twitter, but other networks as well. So it's a really good place where you can also monitor what's being said. And finally, if you are still feeling like you need some help, or you are looking for other resources, or even say, hey, at this point, I'm just going to outsource you guys, our team is here to assist you. We offer a full range of different social media services, from individual, blogging or social media efforts, to full service, complete content marketing solutions that fit a variety of different needs. So, if you get off this call and still have questions or would like a little bit more information, don't hesitate to check out our website, HaleyMarketing.com, and see what other resources we have on social media, or even get in touch with our social media team.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jenny. And just to remind everybody, this is a slide that we featured earlier, but this stuff works. 78% of salespeople using social media outsell their peers. So if you want bigger commission checks, start using social media. It works. Brad, let's kind of wrap things up with one final case study and talk about what happens when you do all these things that we mentioned each day.
Exactly. Yeah, so from January to May, a client that works with Haley Marketing Group was posting pretty sporadically to social media. There was no consistent strategy. There was no foundation. They didn't know really what they were doing, and they had tried some different things, and were just never really consistent with it. In May, they decided to reach out for a little bit of support, and that's where we kind of took over and started coaching them through some things. And you'll see, as we took over and we got their team involved with the program, their traffic from social has gone through the roof. Just last month in August, they had 250 sessions started on their website because of social media. The month before was 125. June was 65. So really what happened was we started posting at optimal times throughout the day, so using tools to find out when their audience is active. We started posting once or twice a day to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Google+. And then their team started to share that content. So we just weren't talking out through the company page, but people were getting involved through personal levels, sharing through personal Twitter accounts, personal LinkedIn accounts, and really growing the reach of those posts. And like I said, it drove people back to the site, to the blog article, to top jobs, and ultimately to contact forms, different locations pages where people could pick up the phone and actually talk to somebody. And that's one of our biggest goals with social here.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. In a short amount of time, they're really able to ramp up their inbound leads. They got 250 inbound leads in August, and I would expect that to continue to climb. And if you think about cold calls, how many cold calls would you have to make to get 250 leads? A whole heck of a lot. If only 2% of cold calls are converting and it takes you 8 cold calls to reach a prospect, that's a whole heck of a lot of calls and a whole lot of time that you're going to waste in people that really aren't ready or have no need to buy your services. So social is a great way to reach a much larger audience, people that wouldn't be on your call list anyways and the people that would be on your call list, and reach them at a high frequency, stay top of mind, get in front of them, convert more. It just makes sense. It makes all of your other sales and recruiting efforts that much more effective. So with that said, this brings us to the end of our presentation, but I would like to encourage anybody watching this to reach out and let us know if you have questions. Call us. You've heard from 4 of our social media team members here, and we have 5 others that aren't on this call. We have a team of over 30 people in the office here that are ready to help with marketing challenges, that can answer marketing questions, that can share strategy, share specific examples of other staffing and recruiting firms that are maybe facing some of the same challenges you are and how they overcame those. So there's a great opportunity here to reach out and get some wonderful consulting expertise and see what you can do to solve your biggest staffing and recruiting challenges. So thank you for joining us. We hope you found this helpful, and please don't be shy.